All right, welcome. Let's call to order the August 29th board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Have approval of the minutes from the August 1st, 2022 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Awesome.
Right. Well, members, we are going to move to budget hearing number 1. Courtney. Take
Good
it away.
afternoon, board members. Today I'm presenting the FY23 proposed annual budget. I've provided the required public budget hearing documents that include the proposed annual budget booklet and public response forms. Printed copies are on the table as you come in the boardroom and has been posted on our website as well. The date of the second budget hearing will be September the 12th at 12 p.m. The proposed annual budget booklet includes information on how the budget is prepared, a glossary of terms, and the state requirements for the budget hearings. The supplemental information sheets printed in gray provide information on the school's portion of the foundation program allocation, the projected enrollment, and projected employees for each school site. Our fiscal year is 10/1 to 9/30. Revenue estimates are based on prior year collections and projected increases from county and city ad valorem tax projections, along with state allocations. Financial resources have been assigned to the various programs of the school system in an effort to best serve the needs of the student body. The budget is prepared with a conservative approach. Revenues are estimated with a slight increase, and expenditures are based on actual experience and planning with department and program directors. Here's the proposed FY23 budget that we submit to the state for all of our fund types. The general fund is the primary operating fund of the school district. This fund includes the majority of state and local revenues and related expenditures, except for those required to be accounted for in a different fund type. The primary source of state revenues come from the Education Trust Fund. State revenues from the ETF Foundation program are allocated to us in the amount of $42.4 million for FY23. This is our allocation from the ETF based on our reported daily membership on last year's enrollment after the first 20 days of school. We are anticipating local revenues of $48.4 million. These are primarily from ad valorem taxes and a small amount from city sales tax, which is about $400,000. For FY23, we have projected a 3% increase in ad valorem taxes over current year's collections. Are reported based on functions of use or the activities for which they were incurred. We have budgeted expenditures for instructional service in the amount of $55.1 million and $15.2 million for instructional support service. Expenditures that are included in this category are used for salaries, instructional supplies, testing supplies, technology, and health services. Expenditures for operations and maintenance in the amount of $10.3 million include maintenance salaries and benefits, utilities, maintenance and janitorial supplies, building and equipment repairs, maintenance contracts, and 12 SROs, 3 of which are provided by the city at a cost to us of about $800,000 annually. Auxiliary services are for transportation operations. We provide transportation service to our exceptional ed students traveling between the high school and freshman campus for classes, field trips, athletics, and employee shuttle. General and administrative services of $3.3 million includes office salaries and benefits, professional services, insurance premiums, and general supplies. Other fund uses include transfers to and from schools and the CMP pass-through for salaries and benefits. That brings us to a projected FY23 general fund budget surplus of $844,000. Our projected beginning fund balance, which is where we will end FY22, is $8.5 million. This will leave us with $9.4 million at the end of 2023, which is equal to 1.2 months of fund balance reserve. The state requires us to maintain 1 month, which is about $7.5 million based on annual expenditures. The next fund type that we have on this budget is the special revenue fund. This fund accounts for the proceeds of specific revenue sources that are legally restricted to expenditures for specific purposes. The largest federal revenues that we receive in a typical year are for the IDEA, or Special Education Program, and Child Nutrition Program. We receive approximately $1.3 million from IDEA, and CNP funds vary based on meals served and the current reimbursement rate. This fund also accounts for our local schools' public funds and extended day program. The next fund is the debt service fund. It holds cash in escrow for seeking fund payments on the qualified school construction bonds that will mature in 2026 in the amount of $4.4 million. Capital Projects Fund accounts for resources to be used for the acquisition or construction of major capital facilities. Our ETF capital purchase allocation of $2.45 million from the foundation program is accounted for in this fund. For FY23, $1.86 million of this will be used for debt service and the remaining $590,000 for capital purchases. To receive this allocation from the foundation program, we have to provide a $0.45 million property tax match, which was $424,000 this year. And then the last fund you see, fiduciary funds, represent non-public monies collected for local school activities to include fundraising, ticket and concession sales, student organization fees, and donations. This is just a chart that represents the sources of our revenues. You'll see that we receive 43% of our overall revenues from the state foundation allocation, 54% from local taxes, and 2% from federal agencies, and 1% from other sources. This chart represents the percentage of overall expenditures by function. Instruction and instructional support services make up 75% of our overall budget. Operations and maintenance is next at 10%, followed by debt service at 5%, transportation 4%, general administration 3%, other 2%, and capital outlay of 1%. Okay, the budget process begins with information which comes from the state foundation allocation sheet that I've provided there for you. This information is also presented on the next few slides. The first section of information reported on the state allocation sheet relates to system ADM and state allocated program units. We had a decrease in ADM of 1.6 from last year, resulting in a very slight change in our program units. The state determines funding for teacher units by dividing the ADM in each grade by the FY23 grade divisors determined by the LSDE. Principals are allotted per school site, and assistant principals, counselors, and librarians are allotted based on school ADM. And this is how that information is allocated to each school. The state allocates amounts from the foundation program for specific uses. This is summarized from the second part of the allocation sheet. From the state foundation program, we received $27 million for salaries. This is an increase of about $1.69 million from the prior year. This increase is to fund the 4% raise for state-earned units and the increase in the state minimum salary matrix. We received $10 million for fringe benefits. This is an increase of $444,000 from prior year. This allocation is to fund the fringe benefits relating to the salaries of our state-earned units. These benefits include the employer's portion of FICA Medicare tax, the teacher's retirement system contribution match, health insurance of $9,600 per year, unemployment fund contributions, and 2 personal and 5 sick leave days at a rate of $120 per day. We received $9.6 million for other current expense. This is an increase of $372,000 from prior year. Our allocation is based on the total state allocation, which is a fixed amount determined annually by the legislature. Each school is given an allotment based on their share of total units. This money has more flexibility and can be expended for operating expense or salary expense. We use ours for support salaries. There was an increase in the per unit allocation for student instructional materials from $700 to $900. This allocation is given directly to teachers to purchase classroom materials. And all of the remaining allocations are based on our state-owned units, with the exception of textbooks, which is calculated on a per ADM rate of $75. In order to receive this foundation program funding from the ETF, school systems are required to provide a 10 mil property tax match. Our local match increased by $554,000 from last year for a total of $8,095,360.
Courtney, excuse me, can I make one point? With textbooks, the state allocation is $526 this year, and what are we gonna spend on, our textbook purchases this year?
FY '22,
Yeah.
about 1.6 million.
We pick the rest of that up locally.
We pick up all the gaps locally, correct?
Right.
Okay, so, like I said earlier, most of our revenues are earmarked for specific purposes and they're accounted in the special revenue fund. But the state does allocate certain amounts from the foundation program to be used for specific purposes as well. These amounts are included in the general fund budget. We received $451,000 for school nurses, which is an increase of $85,000 from last year. The State Department gives a set amount per district and then an amount per student. In addition to the state funds that we receive, we spend approximately $1 million in local funds to provide 12 school nurses with additional nurse contracts based on specific needs of our students. We receive an allowance of $67,000 for a tech coordinator salary. We receive an operating allowance of about $170,000 for our transportation operations. And we also receive an at-risk allocation of about $49,000. This is determined by the calculation of free and reduced lunch eligible students in system ADM, and it's used for tutoring for students who are performing at an academic level below current grade placement. We also receive an allocation for our career tech program in the amount of $28,000. Okay, this is just a chart of how our general fund revenues are broken out. We receive 47% of our general fund revenues from state foundation allocations and 53% from local tax revenues. Our general fund expenditures by function are displayed in this chart. You see instruction and instructional support services make up 79% of our budget, with operations and maintenance next at 11%. General administrative services at 4%, debt service at 4%, transportation and other at 1%. This is our general fund expenditures by type. You see that personnel expenditures make up 82% of the budget, followed by professional services and utilities, which are 9%, materials and supplies 4%, debt service is 4%, and other is 1%. Okay, so here's how our FY '23 budget compares to the FY '22 budget. Projected revenues increased due to a $2.5 million increase in the foundation allocation for raises and the increased salary matrix. $1.5 million projected increase in ad valorem taxes, and we received a small increase in our state preschool allocation of about $100,000. Instructional services increased $2.4 million due to the state mandated 4% raise and salary schedule step increases. Instructional support services increased $1.3 million due to the state mandated raise, step increases, increase in sub-cost. We had 3 additional nurses and additional contract services for exceptional education. Operations and maintenance increased $398,000 due to higher projected utility rates, increased janitorial supply costs, and additional security services for all schools. Transportation increased to $105,000, raise and step increases and fuel cost. And then general administrative increased $248,000, primarily due to a 25% insurance premium increase. Other expenditures are for operations of our preschool program, which have been categorized primarily as instructional service in the past. The increase in this category of $617,000 is for preschool teacher and para raises and step increases, as well as 2 additional preschool classroom units that we staff with 2 teachers and 2 paras. Our transfers between funds had a slight decrease. This accounts for our CMP pass-through and transfers between the board and schools for the local revenue allocations and expenditure reimbursements. This fluctuates from year to year. Since our budget presentation generally focuses only on the next year we are planning for, I've added the next few slides to show some historical data on how our budget is trending. This chart represents our general fund activity since 2016. You see that while revenues have increased approximately $20 million, expenditures have increased at that same rate. The red line indicates revenues.
We explained the 2019 stuff.
Yes, the 2019, you'll see the asterisk there. We transferred $19.5 million to the capital projects fund for construction and renovation of schools. And in 2020, we transferred $5.9 million. Here's another chart that shows our growing investment in exceptional ed services from 2016 to now. We spend about $5.8 million in local funds to provide services, which include transportation, nurses, English language services, gifted instruction, and preschool.
The blue, let me take this. The blue is the total.
Yes, the blue is the total program cost, and the red is our local investment.
Yes, just a point to make there that the revenue source we receive from the federal government covers the distance between the red and the top of the blue.
Well, it's from the federal
That's right.
allocation is 1.3 million, so it's a very small part of that blue. The state foundation program picks up the rest of it.
And then locally we pick up with it.
This is one of our fastest growing expenses, correct?
Okay, and then this is just the impact of adding additional campus, in the past 4 years, additional support staff, utilities, and maintenance cost.
That's total operating costs.
And this is a summary. This is all of our employees for the system. Some of these are paid with federal funds, some state, some local. We fund almost 110 additional teachers and 8 additional counselors with $8.5 million of our local tax dollars.
I do want to draw attention again to the local units at about 110, which according, we use about $80,000 as a mark for average teacher salary and benefits. So when you run those numbers, that's about $8 million we commit locally for the investment in buildings related to offering different programs, class size management, interventionists, the list can go on and on and on. But very much a good investment, but it's important to note the impact locally when we do that.
And this is how our salary budget is spent. We have 59% for teacher salaries, 4% for principals and assistants, 3% counselors, 2% librarians, 4% other certified, 3% supplements, and 25% for support staff. This line graph shows the historical trend of our general fund salaries and benefits and the portion that we fund with local tax dollars. For FY23, the state passed a 4% raise as well as increased the state minimum salary matrix for our classroom teachers with greater than 9 years of experience. Our system already pays above the state matrix, however, the increase in the state minimum salary for years 9 and above closed the gap a little on the percent above the matrix that we have paid in the past. In order to keep that same percent pay rate above the state matrix, it would have cost us an additional 1.8 million for salaries and benefits.
That's compared to the reserve you're showing of 850,000.
So just to be clear, when the state gives a 4% raise, that is just for employees that they fund.
Right.
We fund out of local sources, the employees that we provide, that people in the classroom and traditional services.
That's correct. Okay, and this is just the schedule of our annual debt service obligations. We fund 3.49 million of the 5.385 million from the general fund. The $38,000 bus lease is funded with our fleet renewal funds, and the remaining 1.86 million is paid with our state capital purchase allocation. Here is how our debt service has trended over the past years. Payments increased primarily in 2020 with the issuance of the 2019 warrants for capital projects. You see it took a jump of about 2 million from 2019 to now.
For all intents and purposes, that was a 20-year payback, right? And then we had some of those 10 years.
Right, and that brings us to our capital plan. This is the plan we submit to the State Department.
Yeah, and Courtney's covered this with you in the original budget sheet, about 1.866 or so of the 2.3 estimated from the state that we get for capital funds goes to debt service. You saw that on the previous slide. The remaining 500,000+ goes toward operations. And I would tell you with 1.3 million square feet, 500,000 is not a great deal to be able to put into. So we supplement that in the general fund with maintenance, with our maintenance budget as well. So what you're seeing there is the 5-year plan the state requires that we submit. So it just gives general numbers for maintenance areas over the next 5 years. This is your package. So
That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions or comments.
I'd like to make a few additional comments. Courtney, thank you for the work on this. Excellent job. I want to point out a few things. The first is we did a positive budget in the last couple of years. You can see that there was a slide that showed you the running general fund expenditures revenues. The last couple of years we've been able to move above, which is, I think, good financial management, especially when you look at the increases of expenditures we have taken on for various reasons. And I think those are indicated on the slide as well. So I'm pleased with that we stay above the 1-month required reserve. I think it's important to note that while we're trying to build a reserve to the board's goal of 2 months, when you continue to ratchet up the expenditures, it's hard for us to get ahead enough to do that. So we are running a lean budget. It's difficult for us to do much above what we're doing, as we have shared already in the past. And one of those areas that is the most important, if not for our district, is making sure we retain, recruit, keep our very best educators in the classroom. We all desire that for our kids. And so when we made the decision to move only to 4% in a raise this year, it was with this in mind, that we didn't have much room to grow. And as Courtney said, had we used the same commensurate percentages as the state did in their matrix, it would have cost us about $1 million more than we have, even in reserve. So that was just something we simply couldn't do. But I will say, and I think it's important to point out, because of our commitment locally, and because the majority of our revenue comes from local funds, we're able to do many things that otherwise would fit 110 teachers, which does give us ability to maintain lower than average class sizes, particularly elementary grades, interventionists in grades. It helps us to employ additional instructors for English language learners. The special education, exceptional ed commitments that we make are all wise investment. It allows for art and music in elementary grades. The list goes on and on and on that we're able to do. And so while we weren't able to meet everything we wanted to this year in ways of raises, there are so many other pieces of what we do for our kids that I think add value to the classroom. That being said, moving forward, we're certainly aware of wanting to make sure we stay competitive and at the top as best we can with salary. So we'll evaluate that annually And anytime we can do something and appropriate things toward additional salary increases, that's a priority. Simply not something we can do now. But I do want to point those pieces out to you. Comments, questions for Courtney?
Question on the ADM, so it's calculated off last September's enrollment, correct? So I think it is important to note, in the last 2 years, we've stayed relatively flat, meaning we've been able to employ our teachers through COVID. And that was something that was a concern, it's been a concern in the newspaper with other schools, is as you drop students, you lose state funding. So, I mean, that's good to see. This is probably our last year to have really watched that, but we've stayed relatively flat. Thank you, Courtney. Excellent job.
Thanks, Courtney. All right, Courtney, stay tuned. You got one more. All right, financial statement for July.
I provided the July 22 financial statements and check register for your review. As of July 2022, we have collected 97% of our budgeted ad valorem tax revenues compared to the 96% that we had received this time last year. Our total expenditures in the general fund as of July 31st were 88% of the budget compared to 85% last year. In the 10th month of our fiscal year, all things being equal, we should be around 83% of our budgeted expenditures. Although we have already paid several large annual expenditures such as debt, software subscriptions, liability insurance, etc., the additional expenditure overage is primarily due to the purchase of teacher devices that weren't originally budgeted and textbooks, as Dr. Freeman mentioned. 2 very large textbook adoptions for math at LA this year, and we used $915,000 of our advancement and technology funds to offset the additional $1.1 million in textbook purchases that exceeded our $527,000 allocation from the state. Monthly financials and check registers are available for viewing on the board website after they are approved, and all board bank reconciliations have been done as of July 31st, 2022.
Board members, I recommend approval of financial statement for July 2022.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation for board approval for the financial statements for July 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Item 6, I recommend the board approve consent items related to disposal of property and overnight and out-of-state field trips.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation for the approval of consent items and overnight field trips. Do I have a motion to approve?
Moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I did want to ask, there's a lot of travel. We
Yes.
talked about this earlier.
Yes.
Some are far away, some are like a little bit closer. That if every child is having an opportunity to fundraise to go on these trips, I know there's a lot of people struggling right now. Does the Rebels Helping Rebels go towards the middle school and high school? Like, does everyone have an opportunity to go on these?
I'm defer to Faith, you kind of were behind the Rebels, helping Rebels, you Tanya, maybe.
Yeah, they do. Anybody can apply. It kind of started at the high school level, but we have started granting requests all the way down, especially if there's a sibling that's in elementary school, but then they've made a request that's secondary. So it's open for all of that as long as people donate. So yeah, that's what it's for.
Do we feel like we're getting that out good where people are aware of it?
We did a plug.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the post. We're trying to get all the principals to push it, and Tanya spoke about it at open house.
Okay, good.
So we're working on it. Yeah.
And we've started a new program too, Neighborhood Bridges, which would work, I guess, in tandem with Rebels Helping Rebels.
It would, and it's also for things they can make requests if I understand it correctly with the bridges. That's not necessarily school related. It could just be things that they need. But for Rebels Helping Rebels, it is all expenses that are related to a school trip or a school need.
And the reports, of course, the new form that you're seeing now that show the efforts with regards to fundraising and to try to offset costs, because it is significant. And what I mentioned today earlier to Jacqueline is that what we're seeing, principals, as you are aware, is the pre-pandemic travel and field trips that we have seen in years past that takes on a little different meaning right now with economic conditions as they are. We're mindful of that. So I think it's worth noting that that's a concern our board system aware of travel. Okay, let's move to business. I recommend the board approve expenditures for board resources initiative.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve expenditures for board resources initiative. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion?
I would, the board resources initiative is specifically One Rebel, One Future. That is the vision that we discussed in July. And what you're seeing here is an authorization by your vote to expend funds in order to support that initiative. I do want you to be mindful that the state of Alabama and the legislature passed a bill and the governor signed a bill regulating how funds can be spent that begins January of 2023. We will certainly be compliant with that law until such time as before then. There are other things that we'll be doing as part of what is a typical plan to get ready for promoting additional resource needs the school system has. So this is that first step.
All those in favor?
Item B, I recommend the board approve a consulting agreement for board resources initiative.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the consulting agreement for board resources initiative. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Board members, this is Mark Steen, Danny Mark Steen and his team have worked on things like this in the past. Most recently, we're part of a tax initiative in Mountain Brook City Schools 3 years ago that passed. And so I've certainly experienced in this area. They are Birmingham firm. They'll be working alongside us to develop the type of things we need to do in order to best promote the value of tax and what the needs are in the system.
All those in favor?
Item C, I recommend the board approve the licensing agreement for Cummings Promotional.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the licensing agreement for Cummings Promotional. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Board members, this is the first of what I think will be several licensing agreements. You saw the bill last month when we are basically providing for all of the vendors who are using our brand and posting our brand that there be percentage give back to not only our schools, but in some cases PTO if they work with them. So there'll be several of these coming. This is the first of those.
Perfect. Questions? All those in favor?
Item D, I recommend the board approve the revised Board of Education Policy 7.7.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the revised Board of Education Policy 7.7. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
This is a small change to this policy, but it is based on a law that was passed last year by the Alabama legislature and the governor signed. Our State Department gave us some guidance this year on the implementation of extended learning opportunities. So I asked Dr. Rainey just to give a little bit of a glimpse of what that looks like and how we will be planning for this moving forward.
Several of our administrators in district had a meeting last week with several members from the State Department to get clarification on what this would look like. It will be an elective course at the high school. Students can earn this one elective during the 4 years. The elective will not be a class that happens during the day. It will not compete with anything that we already offer. So there will be an application process for anyone who would like to provide this elective opportunity. It would count as one of the 2.5 electives that they could get towards their credits for graduation. It would not count towards the 3 for art or the 3 for CTE
Yeah.
electives that fall in that category.
Yeah.
So again, we will be developing a process to support our policy change, but that's basically the essence of what this new additional elective would
The
be.
max for the elective is one. You have
One.
one elective
One.
period in your matriculation through high school.
Correct.
And so any organization can submit a application to be one of these learning providers. So this is really new territory for schools, but It can be various sundry things, but we will have a procedure to follow this policy and implement it. But the policy is to be implemented by the 15th of September. We have a procedure, a guideline, I think, pretty well in place that we'll be ready to start with. So I don't think the impact may be this year, it may be more.
And this is a GPA driven, you get a grade, it's on your transcript.
Well, more than likely it would be pass fail. When we talk with the state, that is, we could use a pass fail scenario. Again, it would not be an elective that would be in competition with anything that we currently provide. So for an example, if a student wanted to do a dance studio at 7 o'clock at night and get credit for that, we offer dance at night. So that would not be an eligible additional elective. It would have to be an outside thing that we do not offer during the school day in order for the student to receive that elective credit.
And we would provide that oversight employee.
The oversight would be similar. I know you're asking a lot of good questions. No, you're great. These are the questions we asked the State Department last week. It would be very similar to how we provide oversight for our current that do off-site work or internships or a CTE department. There is a person who kind of oversees that, but they do not travel with them to each place. So it would be the same with this elective. They would oversee the program, but they would not travel. We would not send a teacher to every one of these places that might qualify for to offer this elective credit. Again, it would not be during the school day. So it would be something that was happening either before school hours or after school hours. It would not happen during the school day, and it would not be anything that would compete with the current programs and electives that we have in place.
I'll stop asking him.
Okay.
Another well rolled out.
Yeah, they're great
Yes,
questions.
I got it.
Great questions.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Item E, I recommend the board approve the job description for the career coach position.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation for the approval of the job description for a career coach. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Board members, this is a position that is 100% funded by the State Department. I believe correctly, it's 100% funded by the State Department. They set forth the salary schedule. You've got that in the next item of business, but and they also basically prepare the job description. So we have that. That's what you're looking at now. There have been career coaches in the state for a number of years, probably a decade or so. For all of this time previous, they've been allocated to a certain school system who is the fiduciary over it, but they share it with other school systems. So we've been sharing a career coach for a number of years. This year, the department in their budget and the legislature approved this, assigned a career coach for each system. So now we have our own. We would advertise for it according to your vote. And then that person would start commensurate with their job description. So it's essentially a position that helps support students as they think about career choices. That's it.
Questions? All those in favor?
Item F, I recommend the board approve the revised salary and supplement schedule.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the revised salary and supplement schedule. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second. The supplement, the salary schedule notes the career coach position, that's schedule 73 in your booklet. And the supplements relate to some growth we've had in some of our sports, golf being one, girls flag football being one, and an emerging sport, girls wrestling. So those are the supplement changes.
Good. Questions? All those in favor?
All right. Item 8 is personnel, and I recommend the board approve the personnel items as submitted.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation to approve the personnel items. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second? All those in favor?
All right. Members have 2 reports for you today, and I'd like for you to hear about what's happening in our advanced placement programming. Roselle's got a review for you, and she's going to provide you a document with more detailed information. Roselle?
Okay, so I have fantastic news, and we all can use fantastic news. If you're familiar with College Board is who has been around for a very long time, and they house everything we know to believe AP exams. So when our data came back, there was quite a lot of glee and joy and shouting down in the counseling suite, which is right down the hall from my office. I'm like, in the world? And they said, go onto the dashboard, you have to see. And I pulled it up, and I understood why there was so much excitement. Okay, so let me just say this. College Board provides a very clear data graph, and this is wonderful to see, but it basically gives you a 5-year trajectory or 5 years of data in the category of students who made a 3, a 4, or a 5, so 3+. But let me say this about the 3. Not every college accepts a 3 as a qualifying score. Almost everybody does a 4 and 5, but there are certain schools, depending on what the AP exam was, that will accept a 3. But when they put this chart together, they are showing you all the high school students who took the exam who had a qualifying score, which is 3+. What I really, this is what caused all the great joy. If you look from 2018, 75% made that qualifying score. Then we jumped to 2019. Then 2020 went up a little bit, 80%. You see the 2021 dip. That's what we call the COVID dip. And that is pretty standard. And some of the principals I've talked to in a couple of their schools around us, they experienced the exact same thing. And we all know what that was like. But this is the celebration. Look at the jump. 86%.
Are these scores for the 2021 class, their scores?
No.
22.
They just graduated.
Just graduated. So this is wonderful news. And it wasn't just a little creep up. It was a massive, I call it a massive jump. And so, you know, I've been asked this question a few times. Why do we think this is? Well, obviously, we did school the way Vestavia did school. Our teachers were committed in the midst of the pandemic to have as much normalcy as possible. They really pulled out all the stops for the coursework, and they just didn't let up. And this is the evidence of that. And so this was a huge, what we called, I presented this at our, what we call rebel period meetings last week. And we actually had teachers standing up and clapping. We made this an all-school celebration, but I really make it a K-12 celebration because kids just don't come to kindergarten and say, I'm going to take an AP course. Okay, so starting in kindergarten, I mean, it's the things that they are exposed to. It is first grade going into second grade, and the different types of courses that teachers and electives and programming exposes our students to. So I really credit this for all of us because by the time our kids get to 9th grade, when they're able to take their first AP course, I think we're ahead because we have exposed our students to so many opportunities. And so we could not have been more ecstatic with this number.
How many classes how many
I
classes?
have got that on a slide, Ms. Whitney.
You do?
Okay. So this is just a different way to look at it. Now, I have been asked the question, why did we see, like, for example, in 2021, why did we see more numbers of students take the AP exam than they did this past year? Well, that is because we have offerings in dual enrollment. And so for those of you who are like, what is she talking about? There are some students and counselors have done, and our teachers have done a fantastic job explaining that an AP exam is a one-shot chance. You study both semesters and you have that one chance in the spring to take that course. Well, now with the lots of different opportunities and our partnership for dual enrollment, some students have decided, you know what, I'm a student who better performs when I'm judged all semester long, more like a college course. So we saw a little bit as our dual enrollment courses increased, our AP numbers came down a little bit. But even with that, I wish I had that data point to put up here. But we're still kind of working on that because it's a little bit more complex because the different schools that give that data back and things like that. But that's why you see not as many students who took it the past year. So to answer your question, we had 37 subjects administered. Okay, 29 of those are taught at our school, at the high school and the freshman campus. Okay, 8 of those subjects were what we call self-study, and a lot of people don't have any idea what that is. So I just put just a little bit of a brief description. So we have students who, for example, have either they've been in another school district, they've moved here, they have moved from overseas, and they are now in the States. So there's a lot of different reasons for what they're, like, for example, in some of the physics courses, well, there's just not enough room. Even if we offered it, we have enough room in the schedule, but they can request it. There's a huge menu offering from College Board of all the different things. That's what they do. They contact the AP manager. Mr. Mann was our AP coordinator last year for the high school. And so we had 8 subjects that were taught, and that were self-taught, self-study, and they took that. So what I have for you is a breakdown. I did not want to put this up here because it's a very lengthy document, but basically it shows you 5 years of data for every course. And so you can actually see the breakdown, and it's really interesting. And so what we're going to do with this is in some of our PLT time or PLC time, we're going to talk about what do we think is an area of growth or areas of growth. Some of my world language teachers have already reached out to me and said, hey, can we have professional development? Because we've noticed a national trend. We would like to increase this. So this is wonderful data. Sorry, Mr. I don't have one for you.
Just trying to say, while you're handing that out, the note at the bottom about students paying required fees on self-study courses, how does the fee structure work for all the courses that we teach?
So we are one of, I will say this is rare because not every district in the state of Alabama pays for the AP exam. We do, very generously, to the tune of, I didn't see the invoice, I did see the invoice, it was a little over $100,000.
Correct.
So you very graciously pay for our students. To take the AP, if we offer the course at the high school, the freshman campus, we pay for their registration fee. I think it's $198, $200.
It's $87 a test.
Right, so if you take 2, now I've got 2 because my daughter took 2, sorry. But yes, it's 87 a test. So if a student takes 3 AP courses, you pay it 3 times. And so our self-study courses, though, because we don't offer that, parents just agree and they understand it's in our documentation that they will pay for that fee. They will pay that fee. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, my daughter went to a neighboring district, and I paid about $300 out of pocket because that district did not fund the AP. So thank you very much. I know our students definitely benefit. And just a few little talking points. Courses are offered starting in 9th grade, then 10th, 11th. Some of these build on each other, so that's why I don't find us being in the 9th grade, but it increases as they get to the main campus. AP exams take the place of the semester final. I get that question a lot. So we're going to take this AP exam and then turn around, take a final. No, that's not the way it works. And then also they're given over a 2-week period. And AP, College Board, they set the dates. It's usually almost always the first 2 weeks of May. We cannot change that. We have no jurisdiction over that. So, but we already know the dates now. If you go to their website, you can clearly see when every exam is given. But we just are super proud. Teachers, parents, and our students, they really showed up this year and did a great job.
I want to point out to board members, some of you will remember this, others are newer, in that 2 years ago, this will be the 3rd year, we actually implemented advanced courses in our middle school grades for all of our core areas. That was an effort to give more kids exposure to those advanced level courses, whereas we were only offering 1 in a core area in 7th and 8th grade before. So it's too early to suggest that has an impact on AP scores, but one of the ideas was to better prepare them for those as they move through. So I'm optimistic that will help as well. So that investment, the investment you're making in providing these AP courses and offsetting fees to move some limitations out of the way, I think that's worth noting. It's an important investment. Very good work on our teachers' parts and certainly performance our students. So another big investment that we think is really important in our system, as you heard in our budget, is through what we do in our exceptional education program. And Dr. Ritchie's, thank you. Dr. Ritchie's with us tonight. You all have not seen her yet in action, but this is Sandy Ritchie, and she's joining us this year in the Department of Exceptional Ed. And I asked her to give you some deeper dives into the Department of Exceptional Ed. So, Dr. Ritchie, thank you. Thank you, lady.
Good afternoon, board members and Dr. Freeman. It's my pleasure today to share with all of you all of the wonderful things that are happening in our Department of Exceptional Education. Our department consists of 5 very important programs. The first one being exceptional education, section 504, English learners, preschool, and gifted education. Surrounding these 5 major programs is a solid support system that includes our dedicated nurses, essential partners, unparalleled community support, as well as dependable transportation staff. With all of that in mind and all that we're doing, we have one common goal from our department, and that's to ensure that students learn and demonstrate a profound understanding of knowledge and skills that consistently meets the expectations of our teachers, our parents, and our community, and to ensure that students find value and meaning in their work provided to them. Now, in the next set of slides, you're going to see a lot of great quantitative information. But what I hope you hear today are some of the story behind that information, because we have some pretty amazing people, lots of amazing people. So our exceptional education program, with a $4.8 million investment, over 170 teachers that specialize in specific areas, they serve one of 13 different possible exceptionalities in our students. Now, when you're new and you are a relationship person, and I came in June and July, I really was worried I wasn't going to get a chance to meet these people fast enough. But what I learned is I got the chance to meet a whole lot of these people during the summer, because our teachers choose to do some of their lesson designing during the summer. Some of them were at summer camps. Some of them took the time to come to our freshman campus to meet me, and it just speaks volumes of how much they enjoy their work and want to be here in our school setting, even though they're supposed to be taking a summer break and hitting reset. As for our dependable transportation staff, I am blown away about this group of people. So we have more than 15 staff members who really drive 87 bus routes and provide more than 45 students in need to ensure a free, appropriate public education. When I was at the high school main campus last, I got a chance to help students come off of our bus. And there was a young lady that was trying to exit, and as she exited, the bus driver stopped me and said, "Dr. Ritchie, would you mind helping her fix her shirt?" And of course, I said, "I'd be glad to." But in that time of turning around to our student, I thought to myself, that's it right there. If every child can have that kind of care, no matter what title is in our school system, that's what our children deserve. And as I turned around to help our student fix her shirt, I turned back around and saw Mr. Garner's personal vehicle behind the bus and learned quickly that Mr. Garner not only takes the time to meet all of our parents and students through the bus route, he's driving every route to ensure that all pickup times and drop-off times are accurate. For our second important program, Section 504, we have more, well, we really have 21 administrators, we want more, that represent our local education agency that really oversee the different accommodations that are provided daily to remove the learning barriers for our students. With that being said, these principals and assistant principals are phenomenal. They believe that everything and anything is possible for our students. They make it very difficult to say no to any nurses. We have 7 that are specifically designed for our department and 2 floater nurses. And they do everything from riding buses to ensure health care is provided as to administering medication. But the most wonderful thing I got to see recently is one of our director training our preschool teachers. And the level of empowerment that she gave our preschool teachers and what they need to do for our children was mesmerizing, because what I'm most thankful for is great understanding that our children will learn better when their health needs are taken care of first.
Disconnect.
I want you to see the third picture though, it's coming up. So our gifted education teachers, we have 8 phenomenal gifted teachers. 2 of them that have been recognized by the Alabama Association for Gifted Children as best of the best. I have no doubt we'll continue to see that recognition in our school system. And what I think is most remarkable about these women is that they were awarded 3 grants in the past 3 years for $90,000. And they're actually going for their fourth opportunity, and I am pretty sure that they're going to get it, because they're just that great. As for our unparalleled community support, I mean, this is just a prime example, one of many that you all do to take care of us. This was our ribbon cutting ceremony just last week in our life skills classroom. And what's amazing to me is the fact that not only are we preparing our students for their instructional well-being, their academics, but everything beyond what we do here. So our children are prepared for life skills that they need as adults that are going to be successful in their future. Our preschool program. Okay, this is the happiest place on earth. I know everybody thinks it's Disney World, but it's not. If you are ever having a bad day, please stop by and visit our preschool classrooms. They are the sweetest things ever. The world is good. Everything is great. And that doesn't just happen by chance. We have 5 preschool teachers that are just absolutely precious with a whole lot of support. And provide opportunities for our children to play, learn how to interact together, problem solve, and communicate. What I think is most phenomenal about this group of educators is that they really and truly are focusing on how to continue designing curriculum that's cohesive with our elementary schools, so that when our preschoolers are leaving us, they're one step ahead moving into kindergarten. As for our essential partners, these wonderful people at $1.5 million of investment really take care of a lot of our related services. Everything from counseling to auditory verbal therapy, visual orientation and mobility services. We could not do without these wonderful partners in our community. And then our English learners. We have 6 fabulous English learner teachers who serve 36 different languages possibly spoken in our district. And what's really, really neat about this group is an experience that I had most recently with a phone call from one of our teachers who said, Sandy, I really need you to come to one of our meetings. And I could hear this desperation in her voice. And when I attended the meeting, what I learned quickly is we had a student in need, a student who had really and truly responsibilities out of our control. And as I did turn to our English learner teacher, she knew exactly what I was thinking in the sense of like, what are we gonna do? What do you want to do to help? And I didn't even get to ask those questions when she turned to me, looked at me quickly and said, I will do whatever it takes. Even if this student needs to bring their siblings with them, I need to provide the education for this child that this child deserves. What this told me is that we don't just remove barriers in Vestavia, we break through them. And that says a lot about our people who are trying to help every single child in our district reach his or her fullest potential. So this slide is what I call cherry on the cupcake. We definitely have some wonderful things happening in our district, such as Special Olympics. Madison, one of our adaptive PE teachers, will be leading us in that this year. We also have dynamic learning spaces where we really do hone in on the learning styles of our students, knowing that they receive information best when they are able to be in a very safe and nurturing environment. And then we've got lots of great summer camps happening, such as literacy camps and transition camps. So with all of these wonderful things in mind, how do we look toward the future? Well, you got to step into the past a little bit, and I'm definitely still learning. But as you can see, our data in the last 3 years has pretty much remained steady. That last number from 2022 is as of now in August and will change as we move forward. But even though our data is steady, we don't want complacent leadership or complacent teachers. So as we move forward, we know that our greatest impact on student achievement are our teachers. What they do day in and day out, no matter what the title is, makes the greatest impact on student achievement. So we'll continue investing in our people, providing professional development that will empower them and build capacity, as well as our programs to ensure that the resources that our children need and deserve are readily available so they can have that to succeed. And then I just want to give one last shout out to my team that's here today, our district team. They are my rock, the brains behind all the entire operation. I just couldn't do without them.
Could you introduce them, Richard?
Yes. So we've got at the very end down there, Mary Lastly, and then Keita Peterson, And Jennifer Mueller, who was our psychologist.
Question, board members?
Just a comment, I mean, just to say, this is the prime example, I think, of where, of meet-a-child required. So before my time on the board, I was a substitute, and I said exclusively in exceptional education. And it is remarkable what your staff and our staffs at our schools do. There are stuff that the medical community says these children cannot learn and cannot do, and I have watched them learn and do it. So thank you, thanks to all of you and all of your administrations. This is the exact example of meet a kid where they are, whether they're gifted, whether they're exceptional, ELL, whatever it is, and fabulous work and very much worth the investment. And congratulations on your AP scores. Outstanding.
I wanna echo that and just say, let me speak from a dad perspective for a minute, as all of you are parents as well. Today has really been an intentional effort to demonstrate that the budget that we bring to you is a student-centered, staff-centered budget. Not perfect, it's a budget that we, I think, take great pride in. And, you know, from a parent perspective, to know that we have this continuum, that we invest in all of our programs, we invest the way we should for all of our students, no matter what their needs or desires are for learning. I think it's something to be proud of. So, you know, I think about that. What I've heard today is no matter where they fall, there are places that there's great support. And so I'm very pleased with the work that the team has done to bring you a budget and to get an idea of what that looks like. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very much.
All right, we have one public comment on the roster today. I'll just read our standard speech. Any individual desiring to speak shall stand, give his or her name to the group, or any name in the group. The presentation should be as brief as possible and in no event shall exceed 5 minutes. Speakers may make statements about a particular concern with school operations or programs. In the public session, however, the board will not hear personal complaints against a particular school personnel or against any person connected with the school system. Other means are provided whereby that the board may consider and dispose of legitimate complaints involving individuals or employees within the school system. Mr. Radke, come forward, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Michael Kopecky. My wife is Paige. We've got 3 children, a senior, sophomore, and 6th grader in the Vestavia school system. And my wife and I both grew up in Vestavia. She graduated from Vestavia High School. After living in Huntsville for 13 years, in July 2019, we moved back to the area we knew we wanted to live in Vestavia. We love Vestavia, love the people, love the schools and everything. So we appreciate all the work there by guys. But the reason why I came here tonight is I just wanted to bring up one thing that I guess just wanted to address a little bit. Maybe it fits in with the budget. So last Thursday night, the family and I went to the Mountain Brook Vestavia football game. And it was fun, but I was shocked when I got there. It was $68 for 5 of us to get into the game. It was $12 per ticket plus $1.60 processing fee if I have to go there. It's like, that just seemed like a lot for 5 people to go to a high school football game. So what I decided to do was just kind of reach out to some of the other school districts around and just see what they do. So I talked with the president of the school board at Briarwood and just asked him how they handle it, what they do. And he said they charge $11 for adults to come in, the students get it for free. You don't charge. And he's like, no, we do everything that we can to encourage students to support athletic teams. You know, charging them a fee to come watch the event just seems to do the opposite. Reached out and talked to the athletic director at Mountain Brook, and he said, we do charge, but it's a little bit different. The way we do it is we charge just a small athletic fee at the beginning of the year, your registration fee, like your computer fee, your lab fee, you charge a small fee at the beginning of the year. He said small, I don't know exactly what small means, but that is the fee for all high school students to get in to the games. You don't pay any additional fee when they go. So I was thinking about, and I was talking to a lady, and her son recently graduated from Vestavia, was on the Vestavia boys basketball team. And she was saying since he was on the team, she's volunteered to work the front desk and, you know, and just take tickets. She said she felt really bad for one family, a boy on their team that had 4 younger siblings. So when the parents brought 4 younger siblings to come watch the brother play, it was over $60. It was $9 per ticket plus $1.50 processing fee to come there. And, you know, that just seems like a lot of money anybody should have to pay, especially in basketball. You've got so many games and it's called $60 for young siblings to come watch their brother play. I know a lot of people in Vestavia probably, it's not a big deal, it's not that much money, but, I'm telling you, my sophomore, her group of friends, she's got several that, when they try and do things like, they're like, we can't come to games, we're not gonna be able to come to football games, we can't do stuff, because their parents don't pay for any extracurricular or social events, they've got to pay for it all, and they're just like, it's kind of expensive to do that. And this is something that happened the other day, kind of a little bit separate this, but just got me thinking about it. So after the first day of school, my son that's at the Zits came home, and he's like, we were just asking about his day, and he said, I didn't get a PE uniform today because we hadn't paid for it. He said, we have to pay $25 by the end of the week to get it, or get 5 points off per day. And I thought I paid for it, looked back, hadn't paid for it. It's like, okay, so I wrote him a check, $25, went in, got it, didn't need anything else of it. Then midweek last week, my wife, just when we were eating dinner, was just asking him about school, how things were going. And she said, how's PE? He was talking about doing volleyball and things like that. And then she just said, does everybody have their PE uniform? And he's like, well, everybody but like 5 or 6 people. And she's like, what happens to those 5 or 6 people that don't? And he's like, well, actually, just today, the PE teacher, informed the class that if you don't, since you didn't have PE uniform, you were getting 5 to 6, you were getting 5 points off per day for not having it. He said at that point, one boy spoke up and said, well, my mother said she doesn't get paid until the 28th. And once she gets paid on the 28th, she'll be able to send in a check. So anyway, just kind of got me thinking, there are plenty of people who have plenty of money to do this, but there are kids that it's tough to do that. And I don't think that anybody in here would want a student not to be able to attend an athletic event because they can't afford it. So I just encourage you guys to consider, seeing through some way that at least have significantly reduced prices for the students. Parents charge them whatever you want, but kids should be able to get in at a reasonable price. I mean, $13.60 for a high school football game for a kid to come to, I just think that's pretty expensive. So that's just one, I guess just last thing I think also is better when you have kids, you'd probably rather have them at a school event that's monitored in a controlled environment, I suppose, just kind of, out doing things. So anyway, that's just what I'm going to say. Just hope you guys would consider that at some point.
Will you state your address for the record? Sorry.
Yeah. 3337 Panorama Brook Drive.
It's just under one.
Thanks, Mr. Craig, appreciate it.
All right, anything else? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second. Let's go play football.
2 of ours are going to football.